Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbontv or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. This podcast is proud to be brought to you by the Crazy Elk Company. Go to crazyoutcompany.com to pick up yourself a tag wallet, custom kill kit, or one of their e-tag systems to throw in your pack this coming hunting season. Use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by onX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is onX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, onX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust onX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about onX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I am joined by a cool guy who I met in the wilderness of Idaho when I was on a spring bear hunt with Iron Will, Two Shot, and Puffy D of Initial Ascent. We were hiking in, hunting bears in springtime. We came across a group of guys and started chatting them up, and all of a sudden I was like, hey, I like you. You're a good dude. What else? Tell me a little bit about yourself. And sure enough, here we are recording with one of those guys. That's Zach Adams out of the state of Idaho, and also he has an amazing story about a little entrepreneurship in the outdoor industry. We're going to talk a little bit about what he's created and what he has got started on his end. Zach, it's good to reconnect with you, brother. How you doing?
Good, Johnny. How are you? Nice to see you again.
I'm doing well. Fighting a little bit of a cold, my man. My kids went back to school. All of a sudden, being around a bunch of people and that bug went around and bam, got me. So all you listeners, if I sound a little off, you know why. But we're here. We're kicking it. As Zach says, any day above ground is a day that's worth living. And so we're kicking it and doing well. So Zach, dude, it's the end of August, about to be September. We got any plans coming up?
Yeah. I think we're heading out Labor Day. We're gonna go out chase some elk. First day out of the season. Did some scouting a few weeks ago and got some good spots and saw some elk. So I'm feeling fairly confident. Hopefully they're talking. But we're gonna hit it real hard at the end of the season. So that's the plan.
I love it. You gonna be hunting elk back up in that area where we were for bear?
No, not really in there. I think that area gets a little bit too busy.
Does it get pretty packed in the fall?
Yeah. It's just so close to a big city that it just gets super packed. So I go a little bit further out and found a good spot where I had some success last year. So
sweet. I love it. Well, for all the listeners who are like, who is Zach Adams? Who is this guy that's on this podcast? Zach, give listeners a little history on yourself. How'd you get into hunting? What do you do for work? What do you do in general? All that.
Yeah, so I started, starting from early age, started hunting with my dad. Like I think most people, your dad gets you into hunting. And so he got me into hunting. We didn't do a whole lot of big game growing up, but we definitely hit the duck hunting hard. We were into duck hunting and training dogs, and we trained our own dogs for years and years. We duck hunted till I was in high school, and then post high school, I pretty much straight out of high school went and joined the Air Force. Joined the Air Force as a combat controller, and that pipeline takes about 2.5 years. Once I finished the pipeline, I moved to New Mexico and was there for about 4 years. All in all, I was in the Air Force as an active duty combat controller for um, close to 8 years, 7 and some change. And I just kind of decided that it was, um, I went there to do what I needed to do, and decided I want to try something else and moved to Boise, Idaho to pursue a mechanical engineering degree at Boise State. Go Broncos. Um, and just started hunting more. So the last couple of years in the Air Force, I met some guys that were way into big game hunting, and they kind of got me hooked, especially on the archery stuff. I had never touched a bow until one of my friends really got me into it. And so the last 3 4 years, I've been hunting harder than I ever have in the rest of my life, and kind of through that process, and I guess through how my brain works as I'm pursuing an engineering degree. Um, I kind of find things or try to look at things that can be improved and can be um, made better in some sort of way. And I think a lot of people use phone scope, and that was pretty much the only thing on the market as far as like a product to digi-scope on a large scale. And I thought that I could improve upon that. And so in the last year, I designed and made my own digi-scope adapter, and it's called onglass adapter. We're just getting started. We just started selling 2 months ago now, and um, started right out of my garage and started designing it. And that pretty much lands me where I'm at now, full-time school, working that, and then working some other side jobs also.
Yeah. Now, when I saw you, you were with a bunch of guys that work at Everly Stock. Do you work at Everly Stock as well?
So I work at Everly Stock on the weekends. The guys that were with me were some old friends from out of state, and so they're not associated really with hunting at all. That was pretty much some of their first hunts on that one. But yeah, so I work at Everly Stock on the weekends, just part time. It's a really good college job for me. I can go to college during the week and then work in the store there during the weekends. A great group of guys, bunch of good hunters. So yeah, I enjoy that a lot.
That's so cool. I love it. Yeah, Everly Stock guys, we met a lot of them. Jordan, a shout out to you, brother, if you ever listen to this podcast. Met you at the Western Hunt Expo. Love those guys. Um, so here you are, a college kid. By the way, I call you college kid because that just kind of rolls off the tongue. How old are you, Zach?
27.
Yeah, you're no kid. You're no kid. You're a veteran, brother. Yeah, thank you for your service. And here you are, just dominating, living life. And what got you into this whole idea of this making a better mousetrap, making a better digi-scoping device? Did you already own a 3D printer? And was this something that you're like, I'm just gonna randomly go pick up a 3D printer one day and start dinking around on AutoCAD or whatever it is, or like what was this process where you're like, I want to go try this out?
Yeah. No, I didn't own a 3D printer. I didn't really own anything at the time that was that allowed me to just go straight into it. But one thing that obviously did help was studying in mechanical engineering. I was able to take some SolidWorks classes, which is a CAD software, computer design software. Um, and I got the idea of trying to make something to which I didn't have to basically switch my phone case out every time I wanted to go hunting, and something that I could just throw my phone in my pocket instead of how I had to carry it before is in my bino harness, um, behind my bino harness or in a different pocket or something that, and it just seemed a little bit inefficient to me to have to do that. And so I started playing with the idea, and it took months and months, and I have a whole bin sitting up somewhere behind me of just prototypes. It started, I started with the idea of almost copying phone scope with a case and just making the case slimmer and doing things like that. Um, and it just wasn't working out for me. I just thought that wasn't the most efficient design methodology for that, and so I just continued playing with it, and I think probably took me about 6 7 months to see the design that is currently for sale. Um, and yeah, and once I kind of got it down on the computer, um, I bought a 3D printer and I went to some local 3D printing companies here in Boise and just started repping out prototypes. And here we are.
I freaking love it. All right, so you said you started by like trying to slim down the phone scope case and all that, and then you ended up just going like a completely different direction. How did you what what led to that? What was it? I know personally I've used phone scope for years, and it's I hate having the fact to always take the my phone case out, put it in the phone scope adapter, and then the ring that goes on the phone scope, I always just leave attached to my case. That way they never get separated. But then putting that in my pocket, I got this big thing bulging out of the side of my cargo pockets, all that. What was it that led you to creating this ring, but at the same time creating this adapter that you can put on your own phone case?
It's just mostly through trial and error and just kind of changing, I think, the methodology of how the case works. And so um, PhoneScope takes the bulk of the system and puts it on your phone. Uh, their rings that go on the optic is pretty small. They're pretty slim. And so I kind of just thought about reversing that idea. Generally, when you have a spotting scope, it's going to go in your pack anyway. It's going to go, maybe it just rides in your truck with you or whatever. And so the space that spotting scope is taking up is already there. And so I kind of figured, well, if that's going to go in my pack, I might as well put the bulk of the system on the spotting scope because it already has available space there. And so if I can put the bulk on the spotting scope and then I can slim down what's on my phone, then I can just put my phone in and out of my pocket. And so that was kind of, I think, the theory. And there's again a lot of trial and error on how that actually worked and how I was going to line it up to the certain lenses on the phones. And phones have like 17 different lenses these days, and
Right.
Just lots of problem solving, and it just through trial and error and kind of using that methodology of changing where the bulk of the system is going to go. I think is what primarily led to what it looks like now.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So on your website at onglassadapter.com, you can browse through your different things that you offer, which is the adapter, the mounting tab, and the QD quick detach mount. So explain how all these work for all the listeners who are. By the way, and before you jump in there, if you guys are listening to this podcast and you don't digi-scope, if you ever enjoy watching videos or taking pictures of your animals, sharing them on social media, all that, digi-scope is the way to go. It's so much fun to be able to be like, oh yeah, check out this animal that I saw, and you're at a social event and you meet other hunters and you're pulling out your cell phone and like, hey, check out this, and you're just swiping through all these sweet videos or photos of these animals. That's not possible unless you either have really steady hands, which that is horrible nowadays with all the different camera lenses that they have, especially if you're like an iPhone user and they have the 3 cameras, trying to figure out where's the center of it so you don't get that ghost ring around your video. But at the same time, here it is. Zach created this. So Zach, take us through the different pieces of your kit and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we'll start with the QD mount. That's the piece that is the only piece that is physically attached to your phone. So you take the QD mount, and when it shows up to you, it's going to have what's called the alignment tool on it. And so the alignment tool looks like this big flat piece, this real thin piece on it with 2 holes at the top. And those 2 holes are going to be associated with where your camera or where the lens on your phone sits. So typically older phones is going to have maybe one single center lens, like a Samsung S8 or something. And then the newer phones are all going to have those multiple lenses, maybe at that top left corner as you're looking at the back. So you're going to take that QD mount, and you're going to use those holes to align it to whatever lens is the appropriate lens. So for like iPhone 13, for example, it's going to be the bottom lens of the three. You'll take that left hole and you'll center it on that lens, and you'll make sure it's square and plumb with your phone, and then you'll take the adhesive on the back of that QD mount, and you'll stick it right to your phone. And then once it's stuck there and everything's aligned well, you can just snap that alignment tool off. It won't be there; it just pulls off nice and easy. And then moving on from there, you're going to take your mounting tab, excuse me, and the mounting tab just slides in and clips into that QD mount. And so that stuff can stay on your phone at all times. But you have the option to be able to take that mounting tab off when you're not hunting or when you're not moving, just in case through the testing process, some people have gotten that hooked in their pocket, in daily use, in daily use and stuff. I end up just leaving mine on all the time. I didn't really get hooked on, but I wanted to have that option for people to be able to take it off and to have the slimmest thing on their phone while they're not using it. And then the pieces that go on your spotting scope are going to be your adapter ring and your spacer. So the adapter ring is just has 3 slots associated with the holes associated with how you align the camera. So if you have a left camera, you're going to use the left slot. And then the spacer is just you use depending on the optic you have. So when you order a kit, you can look at the reference guide and order that spacer depending on whichever optic you have.
I love it. So here you are. You created this. You're living the American dream, man. You thought of a way to improve a product. You took action. You used your skill set. You created it, and now you're selling it. And how is it getting the word out? Because PhoneScope has a pretty large hold on the market, I would feel, for like Western hunting, but people are always looking for the next best thing. So what how are you going about getting your word out, and how's the feedback so far?
So right now, it's all pretty much just either word of mouth or social media. Due to just kind of the size of my company, which is tiny, right? It's just me, and it's just the pocket change that I have. It's just social media marketing, really. I'm just trying to get the word out as much as possible. Trying to, cold call some people out there, see if I can get my adapter in their hands and see if they can use it. And other than that, that's really all I have. And then as far as feedback goes, we're still selling them. I think I sold. We're at the end of August now. I think I sold about 25 kits this month, which is good for me. One kit is awesome. I told myself at the start of this, once I get one random person to buy my stuff, I think that was a pretty proud moment for me. Somebody who didn't know me, somebody who just saw it and thought it was a good idea, and so that was pretty proud, and that was pretty cool for me. So feedback's going well. I think, like anything, you can't be 100% successful with any product, and you're going to have issues, but with our warranty policy and everything like that, if you don't like it, you just return it to us. We'll totally refund you. And so that's where we're at right now, and we're growing, and I still hope to grow and get bigger and bigger as we go.
Awesome. I love it. So, well, that's pretty cool of products. It's not too often you meet somebody out in the wilderness, the trail, and all of a sudden you're recording a podcast and you learn about this cool invention that they've created and all that. So I love hearing about that. Let's talk a little bit about hunting here for a second, Z-Man. Is it all right if I call you Z-Man? I don't know why I just said that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, this cold must be getting to my head, everybody. Jeez Louise, what's happening here? Zach, when we saw you, we ended up bumping on the trail, and right afterwards, we ended up taking a shot on a black bear that we just missed. It was very close. Tough angle shot, though.
Right.
Tough angle shot. Uphill, tough shooting platform. you ended up not tagging out that trip, but what, you went out the following week, or how did that go?
Yeah, so it was that week, um, but it was the very last evening that we had. So we saw you guys on that trail, and I had hunted that area the previous spring, and didn't tag out, but definitely had some opportunities. And so after we bumped into you guys, and that little blonde bear got away, or not a little, that was a nice bear. Um,
Oh, the one that I shot and
we
missed at.
the
Yeah,
the one that you showed me the video. Oh man, that was
that's
that
a
was
beautiful bear. Jeez Louise,
gorgeous,
man.
gorgeous.
I'm gonna have to get a
Hey, that's the
tattoo.
way it
Says,
goes, right?
yeah, no regrets, no regrets.
Yeah. Yeah, so we hunted around. We kind of went off the trail and deeper into one of the drainages there, and just wasn't seeing anything. And that was a hell of a hunt, because when we hiked in, before you guys hiked in, we hiked in about 3-4 inches of snow on that trip. That was, that's the most snow I've seen that time of spring, really, anywhere. Is just like, we hiked in, I think it was about 4.5, maybe 5 miles back. Um, yeah, and just covered in snow. And I'm not a very experienced bear hunter, right? So I don't know what do bears do when it dumps, 5-6 inches of snow, or 4 or 5 inches of snow in the spring. And so we probably should have been more patient and just kind of stayed where we were up at the top of the valley. But we didn't, and we moved down and had a struggle. But we ended up kind of sitting on this trail, and somebody ended up coming down the trail and giving us a heads up that maybe they saw a bear or something down a little bit further. And so we went down and just kind of sat on the area and just glassed for 3-4 hours. And right about sundown, when they all come out again, a little bear popped out, and we were able to fill a tag. So last evening, kind of the last 2 hours of the last evening, and we ended up getting it done. So worked out.
That was a gorgeous little chocolate bear that you. What was that, blonde or chocolate? I'm looking at your picture on Instagram right now, and just beautiful bear.
Yeah, it's super gorgeous bear, and that was, for everybody in the group, the first bear. And so that was a cool experience, especially since one of the guys there, Andrew, he's never hunted really anything before. He went spring bear hunting with me the previous year, and I missed a bear at like 500, and then he came back out because he thought it was exciting enough, and he was interested enough. And so I was glad that he could experience that, um, for being somebody who's never really hunted in his life. So that was cool.
So one of the things that really inspired me about you, and why I also wanted to get you on this podcast, is because here at Soul Seekers, we're all about that mentorship as conservation platform. We not every hunt we go on is a mentored hunt, because a lot of stuff is still brand new to us as well. However, here you
True.
are getting out and doing it, and you're also taking newer hunters. I love that. I love that. How did that get started for you? You just like, hey, I want to have my buddies come hunt with me, and you just start asking them, or is it something that you just always felt like, it's your responsibility as a hunter to make sure that there's other people involved, or what was your protocol when it came to inviting other people to come hunt with you?
I think it almost was, maybe reverse of that, sort of. I think that I enjoyed hunting so much and do it so often that, maybe that rubbed off on some of my friends, in that the stories that I tell and the experiences that I have, and the things in the woods. And I think that is what kind of interested them to it. And so they kind of started talking about it. Andrew especially, um, showed some interest in it. And I said, well, if you're interested, let's just go. Like, there's only one way to find out if you like it or not. And I think you will, just due to kind of our history and our friendship, and the things that I know he enjoys. I was like, you're going to like this. So you might as well just come with me. And so he did. And he he was so committed to it. He even flew out. So he lives in Colorado. So he's not even local. And so he flew out from Denver 2 years in a row to go spring bear hunting with me. And I think I have him on the hook. I think he bought some hunting gear and he bought some packs and I think he's in. And so that made me really happy, especially to see just his interest in it. Because I like to share my experiences and I like to share my stories and really I like to push my friends. One of the things that I like about hunting the most is it's hard. It's not easy. And I think I like to challenge people. And I think I challenged him on that hunt. Yeah. So I guess that sums it up.
I love it. Ziegler, right? The Zig man?
Yeah.
Dude, it was so
Yeah.
cool getting to meet him. And one of the things that I think is truly incredible, why I actually believe everyone's first hunt, or one of their first hunts that they need to experience is a black bear hunt. Because something about seeing bears in the wild challenges people's courage, right? Like we grow up with this idea that bears are gonna get us when we're out in the woods. You know, whether it's like movies,
Yeah.
TV shows, Hollywood, all this, and then to actually be out there hunting them. And then the other thing is like, I don't know about you, but how many bears have you really ever seen in the wild growing up on your own? For me, it wasn't that many. Did you have that many
I
encounters?
I didn't see a single black bear until it's probably 2019. You know, I think New Mexico, hunting elk in New Mexico was probably the first time that I saw a black bear like just glassed one up out in the wild.
Yeah.
Growing up in Colorado, there's some in some areas there's pretty dense populations, but the places that we hunted, I never saw a black bear.
Yeah. See, and that just goes to show like you take out new hunters to hunt black bear, it's like, oh my gosh. You know, and especially when you hunt them certain times of year, you end up seeing a lot. We on our spring bear hunt, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like six or seven bears. Like, how often do you can't just go see a lot of those just driving down the road or taking hikes with your family very often. So when you actually get to see bears in the wild and you get to watch them and enjoy them and see what they do and how they act in nature, it's truly incredible. But then when you get to shoot one and then go lay your hand upon one, walking up on your very first bear, was this spring bear the very first bear you ever shot?
It was.
Were you little?
Yeah.
Were you little like? Is it dead? Like, were you hesitant to walk up on this?
I don't think I was hesitant, but it was definitely, you know, um, just one of those times where you just take a second and take it in. I think, just like your first animal, any species, it's just, you know, take that extra moment and take it in and you know, kind of lock that memory in the back of your head and on how it was and how for you. So I think that was for sure the case there. But he took a big tumble off a big hill, and so I knew he was pretty much done. I didn't have like that. Is he dead? Hesitation. He was dead. He was real dead.
I love that. I love that. What did Zig think about walking up on a bear?
I think he was maybe a little bit more nervous, and I don't think it necessarily had to do everything with a bear. I think that was the first big game dead animal he's ever really encountered closely. Maybe not, but I'm 99% sure that he had never really been in physical contact with like with a dead animal of that size before. So I think just like anybody, you know, you're going to have that extra moment of like, wow, this is interesting, or you know.
Yep.
But he did well, and he looked at it and he kind of got in there in the breaking down process and was interested. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about Andrew is that he's always inquisitive and asks questions, and is that lets me know somebody's really into it, right? Is when they're asking questions and they're trying to figure out the process and they're do this stuff. And when I can share that knowledge, that's as you guys say, like hunting is mentorship, and so like that tells me when somebody's really into it.
Yep. Yep. Totally. Totally. So you fulfilled, I think it was last year for you. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you fulfilled like the ultimate. When someone thinks elk hunting and thinks archery, backcountry, solo elk hunting, there is this grandeur, this like, if I'm going to be an elk hunter, I want to be that kind of elk hunter. And it's exactly what you set off and you did all by yourself this last year. Public land, archery, backcountry, DIY solo elk hunt. What was that? What
Yeah.
was that like? And share, tell this story for all the listeners that haven't like perused your Instagram account yet or all that. You went off. How many days did you go on a? Was that? I got so many questions. Let me back up here for a second, J Mac. Was this your very first backcountry solo hunt that you went on this last year?
No, it wasn't.
So you've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, I'd say that was probably my third year doing it seriously. I'd kind of been out again, grew up elk hunting a little bit, probably went on maybe 2 or 3 elk hunts as a kid. But yeah, I think 2018 or 2019 was probably like when I got serious about elk hunting. Like I bought a bow and I, started getting the gear together and started watching all the videos and buying calls and really, really being serious and diligent about how I studied elk hunting and how I approached elk hunting in general. And so this was probably my third year seriously getting out there in the backcountry.
So cool. So you went out in the backcountry, you found a spot, you did your e-scouting, you got it all dialed in, and you're like, all right, baby, let's go. And you just started doing it. Were you bugling to locate? Were you cow calling as you just went in? What was your protocol for being by yourself? Because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this and seal the deal if I don't have a caller behind me to distract the elk. So you were able to get on elk, get them within bow range, and seal the deal. Talk to us a little about this hunt and tell us about this bull that you shot.
Yeah, so I think if we go back a little bit before I even encountered this bull, so I had gone out in like early September, first week of September, and went to the same areas and just the elk. They just weren't bugling. Saw a bunch of cows and knew they're in the area. Found some wallows, and I hunted for like 6 days and didn't have any interactions with a bull. And this is where the challenge of hunting comes in is the persistence part of it. And so after those 6 days, I was like, oh man, well, I can't give up, right? Like I know the elk are there. I need to beg, borrow, and steal some extra time off work. And so I did, and I ended up calling and getting somebody to cover my shift there on like the third weekend of September. But the other issue is my bow had actually broken, or in that time, like I had found an issue with my bow, and I was like, well, I can't shoot this anymore. Like this thing is done. And so again, the guys at Everly Stockel, Jordan, that had an extra bow.
Such a good dude.
And I was, oh man, he's a great guy. And I was just like, hey man, can I borrow your bow? I mean, I get it if you say no, but like it helped me out a lot. And so yeah, he lent me his bow, and this thing, isn't my draw length, and I hadn't been shooting it and anything like that. And he's lent me some arrows, and I shot, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 arrows out of this thing, and I just went out again. And so on a borrowed bow, I went out for the next weekend and just went into the same area and started bugling to locate. And the first elk that bugled back was just on fire, and he was just ready to go. And so he was a couple hundred yards in front and up the hill from me. And so I basically just dropped my stuff and ran at him and started bugling. We were going forth and just kind of working up and working into some chuckles. And he was coming, like I knew he was coming on a string. And and so some of the tactics that I guess I had learned from some buddies or from some podcasts is to basically make your last bugle and then move towards them. That way, they think you're further than they are. And so there's an avalanche chute. He was on one side, I was on the other. I screamed my one last bugle, and then I just sprinted into some trees about halfway through. And so he was coming across the avalanche chute looking for me in the far side still. So he didn't think that I was as close as I was, because I made my last bugle probably about 50 yards behind. So I made that last bugle, sprinted up, and then he just came trotting across at about 35 yards broadside and ended up making a good shot, and he was dead within about 100 yards.
Dude, that is so epic. How prolific of a caller do you feel like you are? Like, do you know, they say speak the language of the elk. Do you know what type of call you're actually making? Or do you feel like you're more of the rookie status where you know how to bugle and you know how to cow call and mew, but do you differentiate what you're doing, or are you just kind of making the sound and then reacting off of that?
Yeah, I'd definitely say I'm on the rookie set of calling for sure. I've gotten better, and I think I can make some halfway decent calls, but and some of the studying that I've done, listen to different podcasts that I think are full of knowledge, is where I learned to do it basically. And I think it just came down to timing more than anything, instead of quality of calling, just like trying to match their cadence. Like if I bugle and he bugles back in 30 seconds, I'm going to wait another 30 seconds and bugle. I'm not going to try to up his cadence. I'm not going to try to slow it way down. I'm just matching. And that seemed to work. Again, I don't think I'm an excellent caller. I don't think I can make all sorts of different calls and make all the appropriate sounds, but the timing that he had and just how worked up he was ended up working out. Luck, maybe, probably.
That's so cool. So you were bugling with him. Were you cow calling at all as well? Did he have any cows with him?
I was not cow calling at all. And this was it happened so fast. I mean, it was probably from the first time he responded, he was dead within 8 minutes, probably, maybe 10. Like, it happened super, super fast. And I don't know if he had any cows. I didn't see any. But I don't know. I suspect maybe he did not, because he came off. If he would have had a herd of cows, maybe he wouldn't have come off them like that so quickly and so easily. But again, I don't know. I know that later that evening in the same spot, a whole herd of cows came down with another elk. And so there was another bull probably 80 yards from me just ripping off as I was cleaning out mine. So they were hot in there, that's for sure.
Wow. So what was he, a 5x5, 6x6? What, I'm trying to take a look on your Instagram picture. How big was he?
Yeah, he's 6x6. I don't remember. I know we taped him out at the store. He's no monster, but he's cool. He's got, everything is like really webbed out on his left side. It's almost like a caribou antler. It's like a paddle all up on the top. All his points are like pushed up. So like his seconds are like where a typical elk's thirds would be. So he has his eye guards, and then his seconds are like way, way up high on his main beams. So the character of him is something that's super cool. And I don't think I'm going to beat him for time as far as how cool an antler could be, or a head of antlers could be. Especially for my first bull, it's hard to describe the excitement that I had at the time for
Yeah.
sure.
So that was your first bull. Was that your first elk that you ever shot?
Yep, first one. And the year before in Colorado, I had actually shot at a bull and hit him in the shoulder, unfortunately, and he never died. And I watched him, the next day, and he was good to go. But yeah, so this I guess is the second time that I had had that close of an encounter with an elk and shot at one. And so the first elk just didn't work out, and it was an unfortunate situation, and I still feel poorly about it. But yeah, this year or last year it worked out way better.
Sweet. What was it like breaking down an entire elk all by yourself? And how many miles in were you from your truck?
I was about 2.5 miles from the ATV, and breaking down the elk by myself sucked a lot. Uh, yeah, it was not the most fun experience, especially on um, how he died was head down into some bushes. The pictures that are on my Instagram and the pictures that I show is not the position that he died in. It took me probably an hour by myself to work him out of the trees and get him, kind of head uphill or head level in order for me to start cutting on him. And then from there is just a lot of work, just a lot of work.
I can only imagine. I've only had the pleasure of breaking down two elk so far, and the very first time um, was was with two guys. The second time it was me and my hunting partner Tony, and I remember just thinking, if you don't have a log that you can pin up the two back legs when you're trying to work the underside of that hip, I was like, dude, if I'm solo doing this has got to be absolutely exhausting. And of course, I shot it at last light, so we're working through the night and all that. What time of day did you shoot that? And by the time you finished your pack out, what time was it?
Yeah, so I shot him probably about 11 in the morning on Saturday, and I didn't get him broken down until almost dark that day. So it took me a lot of hours to get him broken down and kind of get the meat hung up and everything. And so I didn't start packing out till about 7 a.m. the next morning. I slept in a little, and I didn't get. Let's see. I didn't get back to the truck till midnight on Sunday. So I shot him 11 a.m. on Saturday, and I didn't finish the pack out until probably about midnight on Sunday.
Wow.
And yeah, he was a big boy too. I think on the hook, taking to the meat processor, um, just 3/4 was 370 pounds, 375 pounds. And that's just three quarters. So he was not a small bull
I love it.
physically.
I love it. That's so cool. What advice do you have for people who are going out and doing this for their very first go arounds?
Um, Read and listen to a lot of material, take in everything that you can, and just embrace it. Just kind of bury yourself in the knowledge and learn as much as you can. And the second thing is get in shape. I think is for me the reason that I have any success that I do is just because I'm physically fit enough to move around the mountains quick enough and to be in the spots that I need to be in when I need to be in them. Um, and then be persistent. I think that's the biggest struggle that I've had in learning how to hunt by myself, because I haven't had really a mentor to go out with me. Like I don't know anybody or haven't hunted with anybody with a lot of elk hunting experience. It's all just been me grinding it out, and it's that persistence that I think has made me successful. Sometimes you're gonna go. I mean, the first couple of years, I I went 6, 7, 8 14 days hiking around the mountains and not running into a single elk. And that is that's hard to do, but it makes you makes you appreciate the experience of actually running into an elk so much more. Yeah, like I said, the previous year when I hit that bull in the shoulder, that was day 12 of me hiking around the mountains in Colorado, and that was the only day that I encountered an elk. So it's pretty tough.
Wow.
So you just got to keep at it. You just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep finding them. So
the head game's real. That's hard to keep your head in the game like that, especially being solo. Like how much were you fighting the urge to pack up and go to a different location?
Every time. I mean, like constantly, I think it is the answer, especially when you don't have the experience and you don't have the knowledge to know, like, okay, the elk are here, they're here. I just need to change my tactic or something. Like when you don't have that experience, you're just like, oh, they're not here. I got to go. I got to move somewhere else. And that's what I did a lot is I just put the miles down and just kept walking and moving and changing spots and going to this valley or going up and over that hill. But now I'm learning, like, slow down is something that I need to do instead of just like, okay, well, they're not here now, so I need to go. Like, no, it's like, they're not here. I'm not seeing them, but they're here. So maybe I just need to hang out here for a little while and hunt them a different way or try a different tactic, slow down a little bit. So
Do you ever put yourself in a mindset of like manifestation? Like, I'm going to shoot an elk, I'm going to shoot a bear, I'm going to get an animal and visualize it. I've had a great guest on this podcast, Johnny L. Sasser, and we talked about, he says you got to envision it, you got to envision it, you got to speak it, and then you got to make it happen. And so do you ever go through any of that type of stuff, or do you just kind of like, oh man, I really hope I get an elk this weekend, or whatever the case may be?
yeah, I think it's somewhere in between. I don't know if I necessarily go through the actual steps of manifesting or like or visualizing it, but I definitely have a certain sense of confidence maybe in myself to try to get it done. I definitely don't think I go into the woods hoping for something to happen. Hope doesn't float. I tell myself I'm gonna make it happen one way or the other, and that's just through grit, I think. And that's stuff that I think I learned, through the military and going through like combat control pipeline and going through struggles, physical struggles that you have to work through. That's what elk hunting is. It's just, it can be a physical struggle where you just have to keep on chugging, one foot in front of the other. So, yeah, I think just persistence. What I tell myself in the mountains is patience and persistence. Anytime that I'm down, I think those two words is kind of what gets me through the droughts or the hard times is just continuing to have patience and continuing to be persistent.
Yeah, that makes sense. If there's a will, there's a way, and if there's a will, then you can will it into existence, I guess, huh? I love it.
Right.
Zach, how can people find you? How can they find your product, onglass adapter, and all that?
Yeah, so onglass adapter is onglass_adapter on Instagram, and then onglassadapter.com is my website. And you can find everything you need to know there. If you want to see my personal page or anything, it's all linked right to that onglass page there. That's about it.
I love it. Zach, thank you so much for coming on this show. Thank you for sharing your amazing American ingenuity in your creation of the onglass adapter and talking a little bit about elk and spring bear and all that good stuff. God bless you this upcoming season. I hope that you're notching and filling multiple tags and you're having a great time. Very proud of you for being a mentor and taking new guys out into the field. God bless you. Guys, if you like this episode, please like it, share it, subscribe. Give it a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Also, don't forget to go check out onglassadapter.com. Go see what Zach created. Go support a local veteran, somebody who's supported this country and everything that you believe in and your freedoms. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in this episode. I'm Johnny Mack. Be blessed, freedom on, and as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.